Hello friends, welcome to TUMI Summer School digital event and welcome to Lviv. My name is Lescu. I'll give you a little tour on the area that we'll be working in, and we'll start here at Rynok Square, which is the central square of Lviv, the heart of Lviv, which is now a pedestrian area since 2014. And if we are talking about the chain of squares which surround the city center, we should start looking at the city center itself. Rynok Square is the very heart of our city, which is already a pedestrian area. You see here a lot of people, there are almost no cars. Here's also a tram going through this square, and you can see that surrounding it there are a lot of streets which are now pedestrianized, where a lot of restaurants, where people walk. The pedestrian zone attracts a lot of tourists. As it is a UNESCO heritage area with a lot of historical places and interesting attractions. It also attracts a lot of tourists as well as a lot of Lviv citizens. You can see a lot, of course, on Google Street View, but it's already 5 years since the last time Google car visited our city. So we'll show the most recent highlights, what is happening now in this area, and also that you will not see on Google Street View. So when you come to the edge of the pedestrian zone, you see here it's very comfortable, there's a lot of space, people sit, walk, spend their time. But when you come just a few meters to the edge, you see the change in the environment. You can really feel it, So if you look here, here is the end of the pedestrian zone. You see those bollards, and you directly see that here starts the parking. So you see the sidewalks here are quite narrow, so there's not so many space for pedestrians, and also actually no space for cyclists. Another thing, you can see that most of the surface here is cobblestones, which is of course not so very comfortable for cyclists. On the left side of Sloboda Avenue also there's a trolleybus line, and here is a trolleybus stop. Our tour on the chain of squares will start here on Sloboda Avenue, which is the main street of Lviv. And here on my back you can see the Opera Theater, which is one of the most maybe famous building in Lviv, which is also on our 20 hryvnia currency. We will start clockwise, starting from Sloboda Avenue, walking later to Mickiewicz Square, Halicka Square, Suburna Square, and the rest of the squares. So here on my right side you can see that the square in front of Opera House is now under reconstruction. Here you can see how it will look like. It will be quite an attractive space with no barriers for pedestrians, also for disabled. And you can see that here will also be a fontaine, which will be on one level with a sidewalk, and it will be a smooth granite area. In the middle of Sloboda Avenue there is a quite wide boulevard with green areas on both sides. Then you can see on the other side there are two roads which go in opposite directions. Also between the road and the green area there is cycleways which also go in opposite directions. So on the right side of Sloboda Avenue there are two lanes. One is for cars and another one is a bus lane. Here you can also see how the connection of the side streets with the Sloboda Avenue looks like. This is, for example, Lesiu Ukrainka Street. So let's see how the right sidewalk looks like, which is closer to the pedestrian area. So here, when we walk, you see on the left side is the opera theater. We see this situation, yeah. So if you come here, look this area, you can see that there are stairs, which actually leads to one of the most busiest bus stop in Lviv, which is in the direction of the northern part of the city. But a lot of people prefer to walk here as there are no stairs. Behind the opera theater is one of the busiest intersections in Lviv and one of the most complex one. The left side of Sloboda Avenue, which is further from the pedestrian area. You see here are 3 lanes, 2 of which are for all traffic, and one of which is the bus lane, which was actually one of the first real bus lane in Lviv. And between the road and the boulevard, there's also a bike path. The cycling network and the logic of this network you can find in your materials. The sidewalk on the left side of Sloboda Avenue is maybe the most busiest and crowded sidewalk in Lviv. But you have to take into account that we're filming on Saturday, and on weekdays, working days, it's actually even more crowded and more people walk here. So here we are between Hnatiuka and Doroshenko Street. Behind me you can see a parking which belongs to Grand Hotel. And this is the intersection with Hnatiuka Street and Sloboda Avenue. In the middle of Sloboda Avenue we have another square with a monument to our famous poet and writer Taras Shevchenko. Here on Sloboda Avenue we have such bike stands installed where cyclists can stop on the traffic lights and more easily start on the green light. And this is the intersection between Sloboda Avenue and Doroshenko Street. Here you can see there's tram tracks which connect the city center with the railway station, southern districts, and on the other side with the eastern districts of Lviv. There is also a project to make this little area between Sloboda Avenue and Bankivska Street a pedestrian area, so only pedestrians and public transport can pass here through this section of the street. Here is the intersection with Kopernika Street, which is the main entrance to Sloboda Avenue from the southern part of the city. Here at the intersection with Kopernika Street, the bike paths go on the other side of the road and goes along the sidewalk. On my left hand you can see Mickiewicz Square, and on my right there is the end of Sloboda Avenue, which also here ends the boulevard. Now you can see that sidewalks are on both sides of the square, and in the middle you can see a monument to Mickiewicz, which is the famous Polish poet, but it doesn't have any approach to it, and you can only approach it on Sundays when this area is becoming a pedestrian zone. So on Mickiewicz Square, closest to the pedestrian area, there's quite a big unorganized parking, which is the paid parking. I will show you how you can walk through this area. Now we're between Mickiewicz Square, Halicka Square and Shevchenko Avenue. And you can cross between them only through the underground crossing, which was built actually in 1980s, and before you could cross here also through the pedestrian island. And in the middle of Halitska Square, we have the monument to Danilo Halitski, which is the founder to the city. This square here is also one of the most popular meeting places for people. And also we have here an intersection with Knyazia Romana Street and one of the main entrances to the pedestrian area. Here starts Suburna Square. And if you look on my right hand, which is closest to the central pedestrian area, you see here a lot of people walk, and we have some problems with parked cars, which you can see later. But actual crossing, maybe you cannot see it here, but it is here between the tables of this cafe. On the opposite side from the monument of Danilo Halitski, you can see that this part of square is under reconstruction now. You can see the project on the screen. And also here is a very important bus stop. It's the end stop for 4 routes, and 2 other important routes pass here. But if we talk about walking infrastructure now, it's a bit difficult to walk here because of people selling their goods on the sidewalk. We'll walk and see how it looks like. On Suburna Square we have Halitski Market, which is the central food market of the city. People from the villages come and sell their goods here. They don't want to go to the market because they have to pay some fee, and they just sell their goods here on the sidewalk. And on Sloboda Square we have the end stop of 2 tram routes. It's number 3 and number 8, which connects. Number 8 connects the biggest residential area Sikhiv with the city center, and number 3 connects the southern districts with the city center. And in peak hours, every 2 minutes, a tram arrives here. And this pedestrian crossing here connects Sloboda Square and Mitna Square. This is actually the only passage available between those 2 squares. And now we're on Mitna Square. You can see that this square was recently reconstructed. It's nice and accessible, the square. But if you see, the connection with the city center is only available with underground crossing. So like previously on Halitska Square, this is another place where the underground crossing is done. This part of Mitna Square is now under reconstruction, and you can see how it will look like in the nearest future. And through this passage of the old fortification wall, you can also go to the Suburna Square. Here we will end our walking tour. I wish you good and productive work on your ideas on the area, and hope to see you here in Lviv so you could see everything in your own eyes.